Okay, welcome. Welcome to Adventures in Visibility. Today we're going to be talking about email marketing. And as an online and offline business owner, you probably know how important your email list subscribers are. So that's why we're going to be really focusing on how to create a great experience for your email subscribers. So one, they stay on your list, and two, they actually take action when they get something from you. I'm Denise Wakeman, your host and guide to better visibility on the web, and I'm very excited about my guest today. He's been a guest on 4.5 shows. I think Stephan, you're the one that has been the most on my show, and there's a reason for that. You're a smart guy.
Thank you.
And I enjoy our conversations, and also my audience does as well. So I just want to share, before we get into this, one of the things that Stephan has written in an article, which I will post, says, today's email subscriber wants a value-packed and personalized experience. Companies that are creating such experiences are earning more web traffic, signups, and referrals than the ones who still think a batch and blast mentality is the way to go. So keep that in mind, because that's really the umbrella that we're talking about today. My guest, as I said, is Stephan Hovnanian. He's the owner of Shovi, an email marketing and customer success company located outside Boston. And today, as I said, we're talking about email marketing and how to design experiences that engage your subscribers. So welcome, Stephan.
Thank you. Thanks again for having me. I love chatting with you and your audience, Denise. You're such a great host, and you make this a lot of fun.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. So at any time, folks, if you have questions during the interview, you can post them in the Q&A at the bottom. It's like I don't know which way you're looking, but on either side of your monitor, you can post your questions. If you type in the is it Q/ or something?
Slash Q, it says on the side here.
Slash Q. That will bring up your question in the question box, and then I'll be able to see it and pin it into the conversation. So, Stephan.
Yes.
The first place I really want to start for this conversation is, what do you mean by today's email subscriber is looking for a value pack and personalized experience? What does that mean?
Well, I think it really boils down to how messaging has changed over the last few years. If you think about all the different places we can communicate with each other and with companies, the brands we love, that communication idea has really evolved, and it's also gotten very fragmented. So, and in a way, think about it: Twitter, Facebook messaging, all the different social platforms or any chat platforms that are available. A lot of those things exist, and when the conversation's over, that's it. You're never really going to find it again either. So the benefit to email, and it's always been a benefit, is that you have this stickiness and inside the inbox. And I think what's happened as a result, the inbox has become a lot more sacred, if you will. It's become a much more intimate place. So what it takes for a company to earn a place in somebody's inbox has evolved, and really just it requires a lot stronger of a message and a lot more value than it did a few years ago, where you could get away with sending out something that wasn't as valuable because, quite honestly, it was the only way to reach those people.
Okay, so the thing that comes up over and over, and this is one of the things that I really appreciated that you said, is that email has become a more intimate form of communication. And this is one of those things that I think a lot of people inherently know because they're using email, but they don't really understand. And the way I like to describe it is that there's nothing happening in the feed around it. It's you looking at your email. There's no distractions there, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important to remember that you have full attention when somebody's reading your emails. And there is something in the, like, there's this thing shining on me in the window across from me that is moving around, and I think it must be windy out there. Anyway, so it's kind of distracting. Anyway, so in terms of that, before you can create an experience for your subscriber, you need to know who they are and what your relationship is, right? So how do you go about doing that?
Right. And I'll preface this by saying it's tricky to backfill this information, but with a good plan, you can start to, little by little, you can kind of make it all happen, right? So to understand what they want, I don't know, do you want me to get into some tactics? But essentially it comes down to data. It's like data points. Is how many, you have the best part about email in general is that it has a lot of data that goes along with it. And if you combine your email marketing software with whatever, if your email marketing software has some site tracking, kind of like a Google Analytics version, but that feeds, back into the email marketing system to say, so-and-so visited this page, then, they visited these 5 pages, or, they opted in through this form, whatever. If you have that, again, it's great data. That data in Google Analytics is anonymous. And so we don't have a really good sense of a specific person, what's valuable to them. We can just see it in the aggregate. So using all of this data, it comes down, anytime you have to use data, the biggest challenge is like, what do I do with this stuff? It's just a bunch of numbers and charts, being thrown at me, and I want them to look pretty, and that's great. But no, it's supposed to answer a question. So I think the best thing to do is to start with a question that you need answered, and then figure out how to get the data to help you answer that question and to create a report or whatever it is. So now that we've said that, let's bring it back into email and trying to understand what it is people really want. On your site, for example, you might blog about different, you might have, I don't know, it's so much easier to do this with an example. A buddy of mine uses fitness and nutrition, so we'll do that. Let's say you have a fitness and nutrition site, and so you have certain fitness products, or you blog about so you have categories of fitness and nutrition and healthy recipes, maybe a certain type, maybe paleo, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Yeah. Clean eating, organic, vegan. Yeah. So let's say, vegan. So we'll go with that. So let's say you have like a vegan category. So those are very specific people. You should have a general sense of who you're trying to attract as a customer, as a target customer. And not only that, I'm sidebarring a little bit, but so like you, Denise, for me, you're not necessarily a customer, but you're a special type of contact that I want to continue having a relationship with, but not in a way that's going to ultimately, hopefully, get you to buy from me. We're here to support each other, and you have a network that I would love to tap into. So trying to understand how those people can be, how you can be valuable, not only valuable to those people, but also to nurture those relationships. And so when it comes time to promote something, or, to try and get press on something, like, right, something promotional, I guess, salesy,
right?
You have access to those guys, right? And so that's another component to this as well. And so anyway, back to our ideas of the food blogger. People who are interested, let's say, in your vegan posts, they're going to be more interested in, they might not necessarily be interested in, your latest crockpot dishes. So, which have, most of the time have meat in them. So you want to try and understand these things, tag them a certain way if your system has tagging, or maybe just put them into different lists. Any type of email marketing or marketing automation system that has tagging is definitely going to make this easier, because then what you do is you put a label on somebody, and you can put multiple labels on them, even if they're all in one list. And then when you go to send a campaign, your campaign says, I'm only going to send this campaign to people with this label and that label and that label. And it just makes it a lot easier to organize everybody, instead of, and it's based off of their interests, the things that they've already expressed interest in by virtue of being on your website, or maybe downloading an ebook, or, doing some other type of lead magnet.
Right. And, this is a really key point, is finding an email management system that allows you to do this segmenting, because this is what it's all about, is the segmenting. It's like, I didn't really understand that until, or I didn't know how to do it with my previous email service. And maybe they do it now, but I changed and I moved over to Infusionsoft. And as soon as I got the concept of tagging, I've become a tag, maniac. Because now I can send an email about something to like 30 people who expressed interest in it, and I'm going to get a much higher response rate than if I send it to 7,000 people who could care less about it.
Exactly.
And I think that's what you're saying, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's picking the exact people that, so marketing in general, right? It's reaching the right person with the right message at the right time. That's marketing.
Right.
I think 101, somebody coined it. Maybe it was Mad Men. I don't know. But I should look it up because I use that one a lot. But the point is segmenting helps you reach the right people with the right message. And then the timing part of it, that's testing. But I have a few things to say about that as well from a contextual standpoint and an experience standpoint. There's the right time does come, there's a science to it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the minute that you can do that and get over the fact that it's not about how many people I have on my list and how many people I'm sending this to at once. No, I want to get the right message to the right person. And so I'm going to use what I know about them to create and what I know about my message, because that's important. Like I have a goal
Right.
and then I have a message to help me achieve the goal. And I have an action plan for those people. So who are the right people to put in front of this or put this in front of? And that's who I send it to.
Right.
It's like working backwards.
Right. So the idea here is, okay, so let's get to the piece about experience.
Right.
So you're segmenting so you can send the right message, but what do you mean by experience and how does that get wrapped into this? Because experience is kind of a big word. It can mean a lot. So
yeah, it's true.
Why don't you define it for us?
Yeah. So, I mean, essentially it's the experience. You have to think through contextually what your ask is, how much investment are you asking of somebody when you send them an email? And then is it the appropriate time? Is it coming in the appropriate format? Is it making it as easy for them as possible? I'll give you a couple examples in a second. So that's the whole idea of experience design. And one stat just to throw out, because it's an important one, as from my friends at Litmus who created this shirt. I love the shirt, but thank you guys. But in general, they're an email testing and design company that based here out of Cambridge. And I mean, the amount of data that they get from their customers using their service, it's something like 20 billion emails over the course of the year that they've analyzed. So they know their stuff. And when they tell you that roughly 55% of people are opening their emails on their phone, you listen. And so now let's take the idea of opening an email on the phone and try and tie this into experience, right? If I want you to register for a webinar, or if I want you to subscribe to this blab, right? I need to know that the link, the email I'm going to send you is something that's mobile friendly. And I need to also know that sending you to the blab page to subscribe is easy to do. And if all of that if all that checks out, then you know what? Sure, you can send this thing whenever, because the amount of investment that you're asking somebody to give you to subscribe to the blab, it takes seconds. And which is, by the way, a nice little hat tip to Blab. They've done a great job making this easy to do. But now let's say, and I had a client who did this, let's say you have a webinar that you're asking somebody to sign up for. And the webinar, it asks you for 5 or 6 different contact or form fields. It might not be a mobile friendly landing page, but the form fields in general, anybody who's ever filled out a form on their phone, they know it's a pain in the butt. So in order to create an experience that's easy to go through on your phone, you're missing a lot of pieces. And so you start by looking at that whole thing, the landing page, everything that happens after the click. And you say, what do I have to do in the inbox to make sure that the person has a good understanding of my expectations when they click through? Another example of that would be, I had a client where we did a great email for them. If I can pat myself on the back, we had a great open rate, highly engaged, a lot of click throughs. And our primary call to action was to watch this really cool brand video that they had created. And we sent it at the right time. It was like perfect, huge open rate. But then we realized that nobody was watching the whole video. And when we looked back on it, we said, how come? And it was because we hit them right at the middle of their day, which was our idea. But then we didn't realize we're asking them to stop what they're doing to watch a 5-minute long brand video. And that's not really the best thing for somebody to do at 3:00 on a Wednesday. So, had we thought of that and said, well, we're creating all the landing page, everything works, but the experience itself and the investment we're asking them to make doesn't match up, we would have sent it at night, after hours when they can watch the video, So that's like just one of those examples where you kind of have to think through the whole thing, what you're asking them to do, how many steps it's going to take. Go back to that webinar idea. If you can pre-fill the forms with the person's name, company information, whatever. Marketing Profs does this when I register for their seminars. I click through and they already have it all pre-filled for me. So I think I click one extra button and I can do it. Even if it's not mobile friendly, it's done for me and it's simple.
Right.
So yeah. So that's long answer to a short question.
Well, no, but I think that that's an important process to identify for people, because very often we don't think about what the end result is. So in fact, we really should be starting with the end in mind, right?
Yes.
Is that Stephen Covey? What's the very last thing that our subscriber is going to encounter, and make sure that everything takes them to that point where there's the least resistance as possible.
Mm-hmm. And if it's something that's going to take them a minute and a half to do, here's the other thing. If there could be a perceived, now I'm getting into testing and conversion optimization, but think of it this way too. As you go through what Denise just said, and you kind of work your way, kind of map this whole plan out. If you can say, well, this is where a perceived sticking point might be, then you can use copy, you can use visuals, especially in the inbox. Back to my webinar example, one of the things we would have done for the future would have been to have, if the landing page were mobile friendly, we would have actually we were tossing around the idea of having an image in the email that had somebody on their phone right next to where we were going to say register for the, save my seat or register for the webinar, just because there's this sort of psychological, inference that, okay, this person's on their phone and I'm on my phone and it's okay to go click through, Now, You're not going to do that if it's not mobile friendly and it's not easy to use. That's totally going to backfire on you. But registering for something is not something that everybody loves to do on their phone. So that would be one way to get past that. I haven't tested this, by the way. I'm dying to. So if anybody wants to, has a campaign that they want to try this out with, let me know. Let's play. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a really good example, is that we're not limited to text in our emails.
No.
It's having an earthquake.
For real?
For real.
Wow.
Okay.
Adventures in Visibility, everybody.
Yeah. That was a for real earthquake somewhere. Not real close, because otherwise I would have been jumping away from the camera. But yes, there was a real earthquake. All right. So I'm in Southern California, just so you know. Okay.
Always an adventure with you, Denise. I love it. But I'm glad
you never know what's going to happen here. All right. The other thing you talk about is identifying and nurturing brand champions and engaged subscribers. And that really intrigued me. How do you identify those people? And then how do you engage them?
Yeah, the easiest way to do it is with some type of a scoring mechanism. That's the easiest way to do it. So it's adding gamification to your email marketing system. Let's say I have this on mine, right? So if you open one of my emails, you get a point. If you click on something in one of my emails, you get 5 points. And if you reply, you get 20, because I track all those things. So what I can do is say, all right, I send out 5 emails a month, I send out one email a week. So over the course of 4, if somebody were to, open, click, and reply to one of them, let's say, how many points roughly would they have? Let's say they have about 60 points. So if I can say, over the course of 3 months, I want to identify a brand champion as somebody who's highly engaged in my stuff over the course of 3 months. 60 times 30 is 180. I put in some type of a condition in my system to say, if somebody reaches a score of over 180 points, send me an email and notify me that this person's worth taking another look at. And the cool part about that is you set it up and you don't have to think about it anymore. If you don't have a scoring system in place, one of the things you can still get around this. You want to go and create a segment of your subscribers and the conditions for the segment are essentially they've opened, this campaign or that campaign or that, and use or instead of and. if there's an and or operator, just because it'll be all inclusive instead of everybody. So then you can kind of get to it that way, nurturing from a nurturing perspective. There's a lot of really cool ideas, but just think of it as a VIP thing, right? So if you have a VIP program, what do you do with those guys? You send them, advanced notice of things. You you ask them to help you promote something new, right? It's like an inner circle. You may want to promote, just take a look at their website and promote what they're doing. Or take one thing I think is really cool because it combines social proof and community building within the inboxes. You could take comments or replies or something, from one of your highly engaged subscribers, and then use it as part of your, almost like a testimonial, but, not like a formal one, but just like a little snippet, right? This is what Denise had to say about this upcoming thing. Because I gave her a sneak peek, and then you put her, you put your piece of your little snippet in there, and then that could encourage the rest of your email list to say, oh my gosh, this person actually pays attention to the people that are, to their community, and
right.
and that's the whole thing, is that you want to reward people for paying attention. And then if you can show that off to everybody else, then they might want to get in on the action and see themselves. And, if you're the person that gets the shout out in the email, then you're like on cloud nine. Oh my God, Denise just gave me a shout out in her email. I mean, like, wow, I want to go and like just like bomb her Twitter and, do all kinds of other things just because I'm like jumping around for joy, right? Because this never happened. But that's how you build, more loyalty and just customer engagement and advocacy, right? I mean, and it's easy to do.
Those are really great ideas. See, this is why you had to be on this show, because it's like, I think that, I can only speak for myself, is that I don't think it through that far, because I'm just trying to get through the day and get the stuff out that I need to get out. And yet taking a few more minutes or, brainstorming with someone on what you can do to take things to another level is going to really set you apart from all the other people out there who are sending gazillions of emails. I mean, I know I send a lot of email, but scoring, wow, I got to look into that. That's a great idea. So, okay. So the other thing before we get into our Q&A is how do you set up expectations at the outset? So somebody is on your site, you got an offer that they want, meaning, free this or that or the other thing. I've just launched a free 7-day visibility challenge, just to give people a taste of what a visibility challenge is like. So somebody says, okay, I want that. Where do the expectations come in? How do you set that up?
Well, in that case, right, we'll use that as an example. You should at least, in my mind now, I know it's 7 days long. I don't know what to expect after that. Mm-hmm. Am I going to get dumped into your email list? Am I going to start getting lots of other promotional things? Because, those kinds of drip campaigns, and the help, the self-help type stuff, they tend to lean more toward that, right? Mm-hmm. And by the way, if anybody's ever seen any of those kinds of systems built, they're like mind blowing. I mean, they're pretty intense. But a 7-day little drip campaign, it's very easy to set up. And what the expectation would be, I guess, at the end of that, and it would be a great idea to say that if up front, is that at the end of the 7 days, I'm going to give you a gift, or I'm going to give you an opportunity to do something with me, just so that they don't feel like they're being sold to, or that they're going to, or you could say, I'll continue. I want to ask I'll continue to, send you some tips if you're interested, that kind of thing. And then on that email, that last email, or maybe another one after that, you invite them. So you have, because I don't know, I'm a firm believer in the idea of delivering what you promise, and then that's it. Like, put those guys on a separate list. Like, don't merge them into, unless you're fully set up to do this. But I mean, I think it's a lot easier to just put people on like a triage list or a lead magnet list, and then move them into your main list after that contract is over, if you will. I'm kind of a fan of that. I don't know. Not everybody feels that way, and it's up to you. You might say, hey, I have such an engaged group of people, and my content is so generally so highly targeted that the people who are going to join my list, they're going to feel, not going to get upset, if I send them a newsletter afterwards. But
Right.
I don't know. That's me personally. It's a little bit more strict in Canada, though, by the way. I mean, you do actually need to tell them I'm going to be sending you emails.
Right.
They have to give consent for that.
So using this example, as I get closer to the end of the 7 days, I start saying, well, are you reading my blog? If you'd like to, click here. So that puts them then into the blog list. They get the blog tag if they choose. I'm not going to send my blog post to them if they are not on the blog tag, right? Or it's like, are you subscribed to get notice of Adventures in Visibility? So I'm starting to drip out towards the end different ways they can stay in touch.
Exactly. And now, even before the emails, the other thing you can do, and again, this is all stuff worth testing, right? So on the thank you page, on that confirmation page that they've signed up to get whatever it is you're offering, you can, I'm a big fan of saying, just in plain English, I'm sending you an email. This is what's coming in, right? Expect an email with a link to download whatever it was you said you were going to download. Yeah. And just, I'm sending it now, or you'll get it within the next 5 to 10 minutes. I think if you can put that kind of a time frame on things, again, I haven't tested this stuff, yes or no, but I just think just in general, when we sign up for stuff, we tend to walk away from it. I mean, that's the end of the deal. That's the end of the line. What else are you going to do? So, knowing that, okay, in the next couple of minutes, I have to make sure I check my email so that I can get this thing that I said I wanted to get. Right. I don't know. I think you can do a lot with copy, and just to be fun, right? I think that's another big part of it too, just because then it's memorable if it can be fun. Okay.
Well, I want to get this question from Kim Wend. Oop, I'm hearing the feedback now. Kim says, I moved my list from one company to another, and now they're all on one list. Would you suggest trying to segment them out since they came in from different free offers?
That's a great question, Kim. And I guess the next question to you would be are those offers? I mean, yeah, I would anyway, because here's why. If they came in from 3 different offers and they were meaningfully different, if they were on different topics, then the next time you're going to send an email about a particular topic, you can go right to that segment. You'll get a better response out of those people. They're already predisposed to that type of content. And the same will go for if it were a webinar versus an ebook versus a, checklist or something, right? Or a podcast. I don't know, pick some content type is what I call it. So if it were content types, they're more predisposed to those types, and you'll get better response out of them. So I would do it anyway. Now the question whether or not you only want to, continue set, is it still, I guess the follow-up is, it is still okay to send an email to all of those people at once? And, to that end, I would just say it kind of depends on what you're trying to send. I mean, kind of go back to what I was saying before. If it's something where people are, for the most part, going to be okay with getting a newsletter, then, you're okay with it.
Right. And, I would add to that if it's not possible, or it's too difficult, or it's too time consuming, or you don't have a way to segment them now that they're all in one place, that maybe you don't have access to that information anymore, that you send a one-time email to everybody and you say, hey, I just moved to a new list. I want to make sure you're getting the content you want. Click here if you want this, click here if you want that, click here if you want the other one. And then they know that you're trying to make sure that you're giving them what they want, but you needed to send this one out, and I think when you explain what you're doing, people are much more forgiving too.
Oh yeah. And especially in a case like that, hey, I switched providers and I goofed, or, I did something I hadn't thought through, how this was going to get set up. It's my fault. And I want to make it right for you. Those kinds of things. I think being a little bit vulnerable is probably going to get a better result than saying, hey, can you give me more data so that I can market to you even better?
Hey, I want to market.
I think people are generally hesitant to do that, they don't want to fork over all this information. There's other ways to do this, by the way. And you can always ask questions like, did you find this helpful? Or did you find would you like more of this information? And then they click on it, and then it takes you to my favorite type of page in the whole world, which I just called a trigger page. But when they click on it, you have to click on something, or you have to go somewhere. So you create like a thank you page of some sort, and the page basically just says thank you, or you can make it fun, or you can reinforce your brand message, whatever you want to do. But then in the background, you just have a little trigger that says, when they click on this link, do this, add this tag or whatever it is. I'm going to put the one that I created in the chat here just because it's my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's working in the background because they're already on your list. And the point here is that somebody doesn't have to fill out a new form.
Right.
Take all that time. And this was, once I figured this out too, I was just like, and for me, I'm combining lead pages with Infusionsoft, and that's enabled me to make that happen so much easier. I mean, I think you responded to something in one of my emails, Stephan, once, and like, don't you just love that? And I'm like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny because Denise is one of the only people that still fools me when I get emails from her. The only time she doesn't fool me is when she sends me emails about me being on her show. Because then I'm like, oh, it's just a merge. It's cool. It's personal,
Don't you want a reminder? Hey, did you know you're going to be on my show?
Have you met this guy, Stephan? He's amazing.
That's when I didn't go through and say, oh, I guess Stephan doesn't need this. This one person doesn't need this one email.
Yeah. I let you off the hook on that one. But that's like the hardest thing to do is to exclude people. I mean, exclude like 3 people at a time. Forget it. You just got to send it to them and send them an email afterwards and say, hey, sorry, you got stuck in this thing.
Well, and the other thing is that I'll look at it as like this way to let you know, see, I'm promoting you. See, I'm giving you lots of love.
Right.
Okay, Kim has one more question. Let's get that. Let's finish up her questions, and then we're going to open up the seats and see if anybody wants to come on with us. Okay.
Sure.
So Kim's saying, if people haven't opened your last 10 emails, you send them an email asking if they still want to get your emails.
The industry standard is 7 email. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. No, make it up. Every few months, it's probably better. 10 emails, 7 emails, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. It really just kind of look at what you send to people and just kind of go from there. Yes, this is called re-engagement or reactivation. Tons and tons of ideas on how to do this stuff, and some really great case studies out there, and just examples of just how to reactivate people or bring them back in. Keep in mind when you do this that these people haven't opened any of your emails in the first place, so don't expect tons and tons of response. If you can recapture 3% of your list, you're killing it. And when you do that, just keep in mind that, and I actually might even tag them in a certain way or have some type of re-indoctrination or warm-up sequence that they get moved into, so that they get used, you retrain them and they get used to kind of opening your emails and responding to them and engaging on them. Because let's face it, we join people's lists, we get hot on them for a while, and then life goes on, and there might be a couple that just kind of don't speak to us. And then after that, you just forget about them, and you become used to just like, okay, I got an email, especially if they send it at the same time every day, or like, if it's an 8 o'clock in the morning thing and you're like in the middle of your day at 8, you just learn to swipe it and delete it, and it's triage after a while. So definitely look at that, at the reactivation idea, and copy is going to play a big part in how this works for you. It's either going to, to get the opens, your subject line has to be has to kind of go a little bit out of the ordinary to get their attention. But you don't want to abuse the idea of keeping, staying trustworthy. Otherwise, they'll just unsubscribe. Right. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to delete people too, by the way.
Right. Oh, I delete people, all the time who, are clearly don't want to get my stuff. Yeah. It's like, fine. Okay. New people come, new people go. I mean, people come and go off of list, and you can't take it personally. quickly before I open up the seat. Do you have an example of like an re-engagement campaign that you really loved, or just to give people an idea of what that means?
Yeah. Let me think. So if you go to, there's a site called customer.io, customer.io, their blog has a bunch of really good ones. They're awesome just in general. Those people, those
Okay.
guys they've got some really cool stuff that they do, and they write about, customer.io, Litmus, and copy hackers. I mean, Joanna Weib, she's
Oh, your
unbelievable.
favorite.
She's unbelievable with this stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's keep getting questions. So let's answer them. Mr. Wonderful wants to know, how do you start building a list if you're just starting?
It's hard.
It's definitely harder now than it was 15, 20 years ago when I started.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
You got to give people a reason. Honestly, advertise. You got to give them I would build a landing page all about joining your email list. What's in it for them?
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to get out of it? Maybe you use a hook, maybe you don't. And then you're going to have to pay for exposure just to get people to come to that page and to sign up. I mean, then from there you can nurture them. You can, once you have some activity on it, you can start to feel more comfortable with, there's all the other things too, like the big popovers and all the exit intent stuff that everybody loves to hate, but works. So we all do it, I mean, there's all kinds of different things. That's a little bit more of in my opinion, it's a little bit more of a long-term play, just because it's one page at a time where you still have to prove the value to those people. They may not know, like, or trust you yet. So, it's going to be a lot harder to grow those lists unless you have some serious promotion behind it. And maybe you're teaming up with somebody who's going to do a webinar or some kind of a thing where your link is going to get blasted out to tens of thousands of people. That's almost the same as buying an ad, So,
Right.
I mean, I kind of look at it the same way, like, do that. I mean, a couple other ideas you can look into. There's things called content upgrades. If you, I can find all these links afterwards and just send them to you for your recap. But Brian Dean, who's a guy,
that'd be great.
Yeah, Brian Dean's a gentleman who I don't think he coined the term content upgrade, but he's got some really great material on it. And it's essentially it's like, I think you've done it too a few times, Denise. You have like a piece of content and you say, hey, would you like this as a PDF? Give me your email address. Or would you like the checklist that goes along with this? Give me your email address. So those are ways to do it,
And that's also a really good way to find out what people are interested in too. I mean, that's a great way to segment. When I started seeing people doing that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Because even if, you get 30 people and they may already be on your list, or they may be brand new people coming in, it's still, that group of people have said, I like this content. And then you get some feedback like, okay, I should do more of this content, or I should at least keep finding a way to give them more of that content, that group. So I think that content upgrades are really a really good idea. Yes, it's more work.
Oh my God.
It's more than just writing a blog post, because then you've got to figure out, okay, what's this thing that is an upgrade? Because it could be as simple as, just turning it into a PDF, but, or maybe it's making a checklist out of what you wrote so that then they have that checklist. And those are very popular. So yeah, that's a good idea. And Mr. Wonderful, building a list is an ongoing activity. It never ends, ever.
Never ends.
As long as you're in business, it does not end.
No, you can tell the people that have read Brian's article, because every article that you go to that has the content upgrade in it, where they've used his like specific formula, it's a yellow box. That was his thing. He's like, I don't know why, but just yellow worked better. So if you ever see like right in the middle, there's like a bonus, get this handy dandy checklist in a yellow box. Thank you, Brian. I tried it. Although the yellow didn't work on my site, so I used a different color, but it's working for me.
Okay, I noticed that about yellow boxes, and I thought that was a lead pages thing, default. No? Okay, because I always put them in my brand color, and then I thought, well, maybe I should be putting them in yellow, know? Okay, our friend David wants to know your thoughts on brick and mortar stores, how to get people on your list, how to segment and personalize emails for a brick and mortar.
Yeah, brick and mortar is great. Good question there. So you can do a couple of different things. I mean, there's always, just think the trickiest part is consent, but if you're getting people's email addresses at the receipt or maybe through a survey, the acquisition part, it can be tricky just because especially if you're asking them to write their information down, they may or may not write it correctly or whatever. The first thing I would do for that, by the way, if you are taking any manually, is have something go out immediately that says, thanks for joining our list, and try and turn that around as quickly as possible. Funny story. I saw a kiosk or like a little iPad stand in a liquor store, and I was stoked. I'm like, this is beautiful. They've got a little thing. I can type it in so there's no error. It took a month to get the email just to say, thanks for joining. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? Like, here I am telling you, I want your weekly things, Right. And it took me a month to get it to me. And like, I did it electronically. It wasn't even like the lady in the back room had to, finally get to it. Come on now.
So I know it should have just triggered. You should have had it by the time you got home.
Right. Especially, well, I used my Gmail, so the darn thing should have just shot right up onto my phone, but whatever.
Right.
Those are some of the things that I think brick and mortar have challenges with. And to me, that's some of the stuff that you can use. I mean, that you can use to kind of get around that. But the trickiest part. So anyway, to the rest of David's question about segmenting and personalizing, most brick and mortar that I see, especially retail, it's all promotion. Here's what's going on. Here's promotion, promotion, promotion. The hard part is if I'm not ready in the mood to buy, I have no interest. So at some point, if you keep hammering me with these things, I'm going to unsubscribe or just lose, you've lost value to me. So what you can do is, and if you can do this, you are rocking it, is look at customer data, look at purchase data. So the reason that the companies have all these loyalty cards is so that they can track all that stuff for you, right? And send you more, targeted, relevant deals so you can go buy. So, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, that's why we do it. And they give you points in return and blah, blah, blah. But the point is, like, if you can say, and landscaping is home improvement's a perfect example here. I know that spring's coming up here in the Northeast eventually. And well, actually, it was gorgeous yesterday, but spring's coming eventually. I'm going to get my spring fever on in a few minutes, in a little bit. And so now my local hardware store should come and say, what Stephan purchased in the past to help around now so that I can kick off his spring the same way and really get him into the mood. So maybe they send me a $5 off coupon, or maybe they don't. Maybe they just say, hey, spring's around the corner. It's just a reminder. Come buy your bulbs from us.
Here's your checklist of how to prepare your flower bed or something, right?
Here are 5 things that we think. And here's the other thing too. If you're brick and mortar, you're in a position because you're planning your business around things, around seasonality, around different trends and all. And so you're in a position to actually inform your customers. And if you can do that, then you've become a lot more valuable to them. So you can say, hey, meat prices are going to be on the rise in the next 3 months. We want to let you know ahead of time. And, why don't you come in and have a great steak on us, right? There you go, Capital Grill. Hook us up.
There's their tip, right? I just want you to know that there's an open seat. If anybody wants to come on the video and ask your, question virtually face-to-face, please join us. Pop in. I don't think it's locked. It says open seat. So hopefully you can see that. In the meantime, Mr. Wonderful is asking, what email campaign software are people loving? So why don't you tell us, Stephan, what you use?
Right. I use a service called ActiveCampaign. I would say they're similar to like Infusionsoft. They're more of a marketing automation system, not as extensive on the CRM side as HubSpot. And also Infusionsoft has some other like pages built into it too that ActiveCampaign doesn't. But it's a really phenomenal system for email marketing and creating all these neat little triggers and tags and stuff like that. And they've been around for 10 years. They're getting better every day. They've really been rolling out some cool stuff. Huge fan of theirs, in case you couldn't figure that out. But for somebody who is maybe just entering the space, I'm gathering that because you asked, your last question was if you've never done this.
You're starting a list,
right?
Yes.
I think
that's going to be too much for you. Infusionsoft ActiveCampaign is going to be way too much for you.
Yeah, you don't need any of that. I would look at, honestly, I'd look at either MailChimp or Emma. I haven't used Emma, but they're getting a lot of really great, people are saying really great things about them. So, and I attended a webinar with one of their VPs, and they're saying all the things that you need, that you want to hear an email marketing company say, about personalizing and segmenting. And also I think they do a lot with, I think they kind of, don't quote me on this, but it's going to get recorded. So, so that's moot. So I won't go on record saying that I think they have a large group of people on a large customer base in e-commerce, but I think like the small shop owner, that was sort of where they looked as an entry point for themselves. So, personalization and data and stuff. I mean, that's all built into the type of customer base that they have. So I think they're building off of that. I've been wanting to take a little deeper look at them, but like I said, they got a great blog too, by the way. And MailChimp. So between the two of them, MailChimp just rolled out some advanced automation and segmentation features, because I think they're trying to, get people, keep people from jumping to the more complicated solutions. But even when you don't even need all that stuff, like let's give them a little bit more. Get Response is another one that's like that too, I think. They have a lot of good basic stuff, but I think you can go a little bit further with them. So there's like 5 I just gave you.
I think Aweber has introduced tagging also into their, so it'll be easier to segment using Aweber now too. I mean, I've used a lot of I started with one shopping cart. I've used MailChimp. I've used Aweber, for different projects, and now Infusionsoft. So even though Infusionsoft is very complex, when you start figuring it, and it's also expensive, but once you dive into it, it's like, whoa, okay, I don't think I can go backwards now, because I really, the segmenting makes such a huge difference. Just that alone. I mean, I don't even use half the things that I could do with it, but yeah. So, and I just want to reiterate that Emma.com has a great blog. I've been seeing their content come up more in my feeds around and about, and I'm really liking their content as well.
It's myemma.com. Emma.com.
Oh, myemma.com.
May or may not take you somewhere you don't want to
go. All right. So thank you for that question, Mr. Wonderful. Anybody else, if you want to type into the comments what you're using for your email marketing, that would be helpful too. Doesn't look like anybody wants to join us on the video. So, well, that's fine. Be that way. It is fun to be on the video, but you don't have to. Let's see. Kim has another question. And you can keep on asking your questions too. We'll do it this way. It's fine with me. So Kim, thank you for asking all these questions, because I'm sure other people have the exact same questions. So I appreciate it. If you have a small list and you haven't sent them anything in 5 months, would it be best to start over? I would never start over.
You're still kind of starting over by sending them, something if you haven't sent them in 5 months. But here's what I would do. I would have a very good idea of what you're going to do next. And then this way it's almost like a re-engagement email where you go back to people who haven't, but your email's in the last 5 months, but that's because you haven't sent any. So you're still going to go reach back out to them and say, are you still interested in getting my emails? But now it's a little bit different. Instead of the onus being on them, it's, okay, here's kind of what I've been up to and what you can expect going forward. I think, there's lots of ways to tackle that depending on your business, but that would be how I would go about doing it. Sort of here's what you've missed, or here's what is coming up, kind of here's the new direction of things. And then here's what I would do though. I would ask them to opt in. So I would kind of re-opt them in and say, and just ask them to, continue to move forward with you by clicking that you want to get this information. And then because then you say, if you're not interested, I'm kicking you out. And then the other thing is do a couple of these. So before you actually send out that first main campaign, do a few of these and, send them to people who haven't. Then what you can do is you could track the people who haven't clicked and send it to people, send it to those guys. So even if they've opened it, they may not have necessarily had that nudge yet. So that's a way for you to say, okay, you really got to take action here or I'm kicking you off.
Right. And make it really clear about what's coming up. I think, saying what you've missed might be, well, why'd you miss it? Because you didn't send anything.
Well, yeah, you're right. That works the other way around. It's actually great for people, for re-engaging people. Here's what you may have missed. Because again, it's not like putting a big guilt trip on them that like, oh, you're not opening my emails,
Yeah. Darn you. Why aren't you opening my emails? But, if they haven't had an email to open, then I would say, okay, this is what's been happening in my life, why I stopped doing email. Now this is where I'm going forward. And, I don't want you to miss this.
Right.
So excellent. So Kim, I hope that was helpful for you. Stephan.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that you are fabulous. You have shared some fantastic information. So we have come to the moment where I ask my favorite question, and what is the favorite question of most of the people who listen to the show, watch the show, is what is your most memorable adventure? And as you know, I've asked you this before, but maybe things have changed and maybe they haven't. I'm sure we have some new people, so they don't know what that most memorable adventure is. So, and it can be anything.
I forget what it was last time, and I didn't have time to go check tape. So if I repeat myself.
So what is it today?
What is it today?
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, no, after college, I went backpacked Europe for 5 weeks, I think, ish, by myself. It was a blast. I had plenty of, I think it was like 15 different cities and a lot of beer. Because
what was your favorite city?
21 yet. I'm like one of those young people, late summer baby. So I hadn't turned 21, and so did lots of drinking in Europe. Came home, still had to wait about 2 weeks until I could actually do it at home, which was great. Like, I'm going back.
What was your favorite city?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, I got to play golf in Scotland, which like just in itself was so cool. I had a ton of Spanish. I did a lot of Spanish classes. I took a lot of courses and whatnot, and took to the language. Loved that. I love Barcelona. It's probably one of my favorite cities in the world. And so I guess I would go there. Although, like, I had a really great time in everywhere I went except for Amsterdam. That one I don't need to go back to.
Okay. Well, where can people get a hold of you? Where can they find you online?
So Stephan Hov, if it's there, I don't know, wherever my little thing is.
It's above.
It's above me somewhere.
Yeah.
So me, just, look me up. I'm the only one of me on the internet. So
Stephan Hovnanian.
That's it. Just look me up.
And it's not Stephen and it's not Steve.
Right.
So
yeah. If you look up Stephen, you'll find my dad. So, and he's not really online much. So it'll just be mostly a bunch of news articles. So you'll be like, I don't get it. Although I look like him, but it's not him. So just, StephanHov.com is kind of like a personal hub, or I'm that on Twitter. Mostly Twitter is like my hot spot these days. I'm spending a lot more time over there. Still active on Google Plus, but it is what it is.
Yep. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, everyone who's been watching this live, and for those of you who watch it later. You can get advance notice of the next episodes of Adventures in Visibility at adventuresinvisibility.com. You can get on the list there, and you'll only get emails about when I'm doing new shows and who's coming up. You can also get Adventures in Visibility as a podcast, and you can find that at adventuresinvisibilitypodcast.com. You can also find it on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes. And that's if you want to take it on the go with you. Stephan, thank you so much for spending time with me today and with the rest of the crew here. I really appreciate your expertise around email marketing. I, got some good ideas. I'm going to be going to look up how to do scoring in Infusionsoft so I can find my brand. I'm sure they do. I just haven't, looked for it. And I want to find my brand champions and start nurturing them more. So thank you so much.
So you could start with me.
I know. Okay. I'll put like the highest score on you. Okay, my friends, thank you so much for being here, and have an adventurous day.